Welcome to the Indians in Germany podcast, where we explore the experiences and stories of Indians living in Germany. Hi, I'm Manish Kumar, and I'm excited to bring you the podcast that celebrates the vibrant and diverse community of Indians living in Germany. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Ritika Sharma, a highly motivated and results-oriented professional with a background in epigenetics and molecular biology. With over 5 years of experience in academia, Ritika has developed a strong skill set in academic research, critical thinking, and scientific writing. She recently made the transition from academia to industry and now works as a validation expert at Novartis, where she ensures that their products and processes meet the highest quality and safety standards. Ritika's previous experience includes being a PhD student at Technical University of Munich, where she worked on prenatal stress and epigenetics. She also holds a master's degree in molecular life sciences from Friedrich Schiller University, Jena, and a bachelor's degree in biotechnology from Amity University, India. Besides her scientific interests, Ritika loves to read books and write poems or articles about life and self-development. We can't wait to learn more from Ritika in this episode. So thank you for joining, Ritika. Thank you very much.
Hi,
Hi.
I hope you're doing well.
Amazing. So, we'll just start. So I would like to start with asking you what inspired you to pursue a career in science and how did you get started in the field?
Okay, that's a very basic question, but I think it dates really long back to when I was, of course, a child. Your parents push you, and my parents did motivate me a lot during when I was a child, and of course, then I took biology. But I think the major transition was when it was during my 11th or 12th, what is a senior secondary in India, what we call as that. So when I was studying biology, I'd taken that, and I think cancer particularly fascinated me. So that led me to take a career in science, and I wanted to become a doctor for sure at that point of time. And I knew a friend whose father was, of course, a surgeon, and I used to go talk to him often as well. So that was, I think, the most turning point. And then I came back to India, and
India, so your plus two was not from India.
yes, oh sorry, just a bit of background. So I did my school studies basically, from the 6th grade or the 7th grade, no, from the 1st or the 2nd grade until 12th in the Arab countries, in Oman and Bahrain. So I grew up over there, and then for my bachelor's I came to India. And I also came because India has it has very good educational system as well. It has one of the world's amazing educational systems. So, and it is also very competitive. We all know it. So I wanted to pursue first maybe an MBBS, but then when I look back into my past experiences, I realized that I'm very, very scared of blood, and I used to faint at the sight. So I think I gave up on that really soon. But then I did a bit of research. Okay, if I went and talked to people, especially elders already there, and they also suggested biotechnology, which was booming at that point of time. I'm talking back in 2010, and biotechnology was a booming field. So that's when I decided I would like to pursue biotechnology, and that's when I joined Bachelor's of Technology at Amity University, and I had a goal that, okay, yes, I do want to become a doctor, if not that way, this way.
Wow.
So I knew that, and that's why and my teachers, they were really nice. They really put an effort to motivate all of us.
Were you sure during your bachelor's itself that you want to become a scientist, right? So,
yeah, actually, at my bachelor's, I was sure. When I did my bachelor's, I was sure because I had one specific professor kept pushing us to go abroad all the time to pursue MS or also or a PhD, and he would tell us the names of universities, and he would just motivate us so much. I was very, very sure that I wanted to do a PhD at that point of time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I've been doing this podcast with several people, and most of them, if not all, I think they all had a common interest to become a medical doctor, and then they ended up becoming a scientist. So interesting, yeah. And yeah, so as a follow-up question, how did you end up in Germany?
Okay, so also if I go back to my bachelor's, it all started from there. So what my professor used to motivate us, like we were a batch of girls. There were boys, but I mean, we girls used to follow him everywhere. So he used to motivate us to go abroad and do a master's, especially for a master's or a PhD, because after 4 years of BTech, you are qualified to do a PhD abroad.
Mm-hmm.
So I then shortlisted countries which were very good in research. So of course, US, okay, Germany comes a second, Swiss, of course. It was even Singapore. Some universities in Singapore are really, really good,
Mm-hmm.
and Australia, UK, and then Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, these were the most shortlisted, and my top 3 countries were, of course, US, Germany, and Singapore. Singapore also because it was very close to India. And I shortlisted, what I basically did was I shortlisted, at that point of time, I was trying to seek internships. So during my bachelor's, I did get a reply from a university in Singapore. I don't remember the name, but for an internship. But the problem was that they didn't have funding and I had to provide my own funding. So I did not, of course, pursue that. So I did all my internships in India itself. But then I thought, okay, why not, like, of course, for a master's? So first I was aiming towards US for a master's degree, but I kept my paths open. So I was also trying for PhD, not only after I finished my bachelor's, I was not only trying for master's, but also PhD. So I knew I gave my GRE and everything, but when I went for master's, I knew in US it was very, very expensive, as well as when I also compared Germany, the research institutions are really, really great and they're very comparable. And especially also Swiss. You have the rankings. If you look at rankings, of course, nowadays no one does, but the quality of research is very good in Germany. Of course, the funding and the papers that they publish is amazing. So I did then look towards Germany, and of course, I did look towards institutions, and also Austria when I talk about Germany, because I got a call for PhD from Austria.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a self-reflection moment for me, because when I gave the interview, I realized I had done 3 internships by the end of my bachelor's degree. And when I gave an interview for the PhD after my bachelor's degree, I realized that I still did not have the amount of research experience that is actually required for a PhD, because they asked me several questions and I could answer, but not in such depth. So I think that was a self-reflection moment for me, as well as, of course, the interview also advised me to gain more research experience and then come back. So in India, I had 2 options: either go for a junior research fellow, or I could come abroad, do a master's degree, and side by side do get a research experience. So by coming abroad, I was also getting a master's degree. So if I would have stayed in India, I would have been a junior research fellow, but not a master's degree. So of course, I did. That's why I chose to come abroad and do a master's degree and gain research experience together. So that's why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like application procedures, say in the US, Canada, or say in Germany is quite different, right? So perhaps for the listeners, could you elaborate the process of applying for a master's in Germany? And also, as you mentioned, Ritika, perhaps you can highlight the fact that in Germany, the higher education or education in general is tuition free, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Perhaps
Exactly.
that helped you make a decision to come to Germany, right?
Yes, exactly. So I was really stuck between 2 countries, because I had gotten a good GRE score and also a TOEFL. By that time, I was stuck between US and Germany. So I basically then went down to the fees. Okay, because the institutions were good. I went down to the fee structure. So there was a major, major difference in that. I would say, if I talk in euro, 30,000, 40,000 euro difference, there's 30, 40 lakhs almost. And that's a lot of money.
Absolutely.
And also, I only did not look at that. I also looked, okay, I, of course, want to do a PhD then. okay, if I do a PhD, I knew someone had come to my house long back and they told me that their daughter was doing a PhD from Europe and she earns also a really good amount. So I also compared that. So how much you earn in US while doing a PhD, how long does it take? And also in Germany. So there were benefits of doing a PhD in Europe other than, so I had to look at not only a short-term goal, but also a long-term goal, right? So that was a major decision factor, the tuition fees, of course, and the benefits of doing a master's and then a PhD in Germany. I mean, right now I'm happy that I did because I am benefiting. I'm being benefited, right?
Mhm,
So,
mhm. And
so
also the fact that, I think just a small addition is that, the duration of the PhD is quite long in the US, right? Especially in the life.
exactly 6 years,
Yeah,
7 years,
that's an
exactly.
average. Yeah.
Exactly. And for here, Germany, it's 3, 4 years. Three
Yeah.
years if you're very lucky,
Mhm.
4 years, it's normal.
Yeah.
And that was mine as well.
Amazing.
So, if you talk about how the procedure of
Mhm.
applying to Germany, if I talk on my experience, once I decided and I talked to my parents as well, okay, this is what my father really motivated me to,
Mhm.
go for it. And once it was decided, so what I did was I created a list of, you do that everywhere, you do that for US as well, a list of schools, of course, and then the high-end schools and the normal range schools. The universities, I mean,
Mhm.
the ones that you should. But the problem, the challenge in Germany is they don't have a ranking system per se.
Yeah.
So, so it's very hard to, rank a school. Oh, this is a high. Of course, you have you have a university like TUM and LMU and, Heidelberg. So these are there, but then most of the universities don't come. They have
Mhm.
most of the universities in Germany. It's very important to know that have very good research, and they are not ranked. There's no ranking system. You just go, you get a very good quality of research
Yeah.
and
In
paper.
general, the education standards are quite high. So that is why you
Exactly,
do not have that ranking system.
exactly. But still, I did focus towards research. What what topic that I wanted? I was looking at molecular biology or molecular life science.
Mhm.
So I went, I dig deep into that, what topics do they do on, or what it is. So I applied to, I would say I applied to at least 7 universities.
Mhm.
Okay, and
And
I
how did
got,
you, so, perhaps any resource or site, a
yes, yes,
stepwise procedure, if you can tell to our
yes, yes,
audience. Yeah.
yes, yes. Okay, so first what I did was, of course, make a list of the universities. What I did was I went to, that time you not only have, you have MS in Germany. That was the main site that we have, and they have a list of colleges. What I also did, I stayed in Delhi at that point of time in Gurgaon. So you have these consulates, German consulates. I also gone visited the French consulate. So there you can get a list of universities there as well.
Wow. Mhm.
So if you especially stay in Gurgaon or Delhi, you can go to the consulate. I had gone to the French consulate once, and they give you a list of the universities
Mhm.
with the fees that they ask for, and if they have any scholarships or anything. And they have a system, at least in 2015 or 14, they had a system where they would tell you that they would invite you themselves, and they would show you a list of universities that were taking in applications, winter semester or summer semester, and if there are scholarships for that or what is the tuition fees. I had looked into French, but for Germany it was easy to find online, so
Mhm.
I found that online. As well as I think in India you also have the benefit of having consultancy career fairs. So I
Mhm.
think there are several consultancy companies in India
Mhm.
that were there at that point of time, and they organized fairs. So someone recommended me that I should go to the consultancy. So one of them I remember was Chopra's. I think it's
Yeah, I
one
know
of the
they're
most.
quite big. They're quite big in Delhi. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I remember because someone told me during my
Mhm.
bachelor's itself that they have a consultancy fair. So I went to the consultancy fairs. And then what that also gave me an option to go to different countries because they have different universities from different countries. So I went into those and, I talked to them. So they also give a very nice briefing of the timeline when I should. So I aimed for
Mhm.
the winter semester.
So
Okay.
you
So
collected information from
first,
these consultancies, but you applied to Germany yourself and not through a
yes,
consultant, right? Yeah.
no, no,
Mhm.
no.
That's great. Yeah.
So let me tell you when I started searching for content. I started searching for content in January, February
Mhm.
for all my the universities. For I went to Google, I researched the universities and all of that. So I try to network with people. If any relative of mine or someone is in Germany, it was hard to find. I only knew one person
Mhm.
who recommended a university in Mannheim.
Mhm.
And other than that, I didn't know any, but I tried to connect with many people who would know. And that's how I also got to know the consultancy fairs and also the consulates.
Mhm.
And my main time to look through was February and January. The
Mhm.
main time for application for me, that's the crucial. I started compiling all my stuff was during March and April. I actually applied on April itself, end of April and May for German universities. So after
So
I made a list,
how did you, so first you made the list of the universities through the websites, and these
yes,
websites, if I may add, I think, DAAD has a
yes,
website. Then
yes.
UniAssist is also there, like where you can kind of screen through the university.
UniAssist was not very prevalent at that time.
Mhm.
It had just come, but I did not need to apply through UniAssist.
That's
I
great.
only think applied for one university in Frankfurt through UniAssist, but by that time I was I was almost like sure to apply to many universities that I was getting a positive feedback. So because UniAssist also had a fees, and I tried to avoid fees as much as I could.
Yes,
So
yes.
I applied to the universities that did not have fees first and which were good enough. So
Mhm.
I went to the sites. I saw if they have had any fees because I already knew how this worked for US. So I went to the sites. I read each and every detail carefully. What's winter semester? How much is the fees and everything? So of course, that time also we had translation tools. I made a list of what documents you require. Of course, the main was SOP, your CV. These two are the main documents. Rest are, of course, your English, your TOEFL.
Mhm.
These three are the main. And then you have some of them. I had a GRE that was a benefit for me. Some of them don't have. I
Mhm.
anyways attached it because I had it.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
and, then they asked for my mark sheets from bachelor's and stuff like that. So
And did they
if
ask also for, because people ask me that you have to notarize all these documents in India.
yes, yes,
So,
yes,
mhm.
yes, but they did not ask it at that point of time. So I know that UniSS did it,
Mhm.
but what I did first was the procedure through either online, you submit it online or you mail them.
Mhm.
Okay, so that was fine. The notarization procedure was after I got accepted.
All right.
They had asked me for all the notarized documents after I got accepted and to mail it and to post it via the novel post like DHL or something. But the first step I did was all online. I did not need to. I know that UNICEF does it. That's why I did that at the last. I think that was when I mailed. But like I mentioned, I think that was the University of Frankfurt, and I mailed them in May. It was long back, so I'm just trying to remember it.
No, no, but I can imagine because I think the winter semester deadline for application is about mid-June, and for some
Yes, yes.
universities
It
it
was
can be till July, right? Like, but June,
yes, yes.
July is the
Yes.
deadline, and you
First,
have to
for me, some of them were even May 15th, May 30th,
exactly.
around that time. So
Mhm.
I remember I had applied to one of the universities in April and I already got a reply to them. And they sent a letter via post, okay?
Wow.
And I got a letter and it was not a good one. And and that was my first rejection letter. So I was literally crying. It was,
So
yeah.
they send you a rejection letter by post. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. And
very
also an
kind of
acceptance
you.
letter by post.
Wow.
So So I remember that was my first rejection letter, and I was really on the floor. I was like crying a lot. But 2 weeks after that, I got an acceptance letter from two universities. So I was really happy.
Wow.
Uh, but you have to look. So that's like I mentioned. I made an Excel sheet of when is the final date of. So I also targeted. It's a very strategic planet now. Okay,
Mhm,
you
mhm.
also have to keep in mind if you take universities who have a deadline by July or something, you need to go there by October. And you have to remember the visa takes at least 2, 3 months.
Absolutely.
So I
Apply
also
early. Yeah, that's.
yes,
Mhm.
that's why I started applying in April because I knew I wanted acceptance. I really wanted by May, but I got it by June end. Like everything was done by June end. So which I already thought was late for me.
Mhm.
Okay. And so I did not apply to any universities which were, or maybe it was just one, but I wanted to go to that university, but they I'd already accepted another one, so I couldn't then eventually go. But I tried to apply before 15th of May, most of them, which had deadlines before 15th of May. But it's always good to have an Excel sheet with the list of universities and their deadlines, the fees, and everything, so you can compare. And the earlier you do it, the better it is, because you also get a response faster sometimes.
Mhm.
At least a rejection response is faster, if
Mhm.
not the acceptance.
So you recommend the students to kind of, go strategic about it, make an Excel list, collect the, information in the beginning, and then apply in the chosen university, with all the documents you mentioned, with your
Yeah.
CV, the SOP, the mark sheets perhaps. And also, do you also require letter of recommendations for masters, or you do not require?
I got letter of recommendations from all my professors. I mean, I actually collected as you just required two or three, but I collected as many as I could. So
Mhm.
because they're always useful, you can always show it off on your LinkedIn profile or something also, right? So, but I did I made it sure because they do ask letter of recommendations also. I had
And
letter of
once,
recommendation.
and Ritika, once you got the admit, how you said the visa process itself takes, say, about a month, 2 months, right, for masters?
For me, I think actually, okay. So now even my brothers come here. So I could guide him also to pursue an MBA in Germany, but it took longer for him.
Mm-hmm.
For the time when I came back in 2015, it was the time was still less.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I remember I went to the visa interview, I think August. I prepared all the documents in July
Mm-hmm.
and I went for the visa interview end of July, August start, like the first week. And I eventually got the visa acceptance the first week of September. So it took me 7 weeks. And of course, they tell you 8 weeks is normal. And I
Mm-hmm.
had to go in October. Like, so it was just like 3, 4 weeks before. So you see, it's almost cut to cut.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, as you rightly said, depends on how many people are actually lining up in the particular consulate, depending on
Exactly,
that.
exactly. And I know I read a lot of posts and I know now I've talked to several students. Now it's even become longer. They
Mhm.
take even longer right now. So um, one should always keep in mind, let's say visa takes 3 months, you should at least give it 3 months.
Mhm.
So start applying before.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, at least for a winter semester, it's advisable to just in April, 6 months before the start date. It's I think even for US, okay, US universities, the deadline is usually in December or January also. So the
And
good
for
ones.
the and what are the documents that you require for getting the visa? Perhaps that's also
Mhm.
helpful for applicants.
Yes. So of course, I had to get the letter from the university, the acceptance letter. What I did was, it's always beneficial. I enrolled into, when I knew I was going to Germany, I enrolled into A1 German classes just to have an extra push.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
always good. So I, of course, got an A1 certificate by the time. And you have to have like at my point when a travel insurance.
Mhm.
That was
And
important, a bank.
a blocked account as well, right?
Yes,
Like
that's
a.
what I was coming to. Yeah, and a bank, like a blocked account.
Mhm.
That time it was tough. I know now it's changed a bit. It's easier to create a blocked account online. At
Mhm.
that time, we had to go to Deutsche Bank and create it in India, and then they would transfer it. Yeah,
Mhm.
but now it's easier to create a blocked account and
Mhm.
also get a German health insurance already beforehand. Before you had to take a travel insurance first and then get a German insurance when you come to Germany. But now it's much easier.
Mhm.
So at
Mhm.
least blocked account, travel insurance, and university letters are the most important ones.
Okay.
And funds. Yeah, if you have, you can show extra funds. I did show
Mhm.
apart from the blocked account.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, now the fun part, once you kind of land up in Germany, you are in a foreign country all alone, right? So tell us about some interesting incidences and the
Uh,
challenges that you faced in Germany, in the beginning.
uh, okay, I would really like to be grateful here. So like I mentioned, life has been very coincidental for me. Every path I took, if I did not find someone, God led me to people. So, and they would, they would eventually become my good friends. So I was never alone, or I didn't feel alone per se. So it was always like a way. I had a direction already carved out. But like I mentioned, I was doing my German class. I found in the German class someone who was also going to Germany.
Mhm.
And through that, she knew someone who was going to the same university, Friedrich Schiller University of Vienna, and I connected to her. And we became best friends when we landed in Germany. So what I would recommend to everyone, who's trying to go abroad, I don't think it's just Germany. Make friends. I
Mhm.
think that's the most important because I have survived my master's with the help of my friends. They are your family, right? Of
Absolutely.
course, some stay and some go, but that whole experience is very cherishable. So I would really first would be I like to make friends because I've had the best moments with my friends. I also with studying and getting to know the German culture and going out because you're not alone. There are a group of students who are in the same situation as you, and you have to do it together. So you support each other, right? They are your
Mhm.
family.
Absolutely.
And then one of course, the main challenges that you face in Germany, everyone knows it, German.
Language, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So learning German. But usually, I think people who come to Germany are pretty directed. They start learning ahead. Also, when I came to my master's, it was not compulsory for us to learn German because, of course, in our field, we don't require in PhD nor in master's, we don't require to learn German.
Mhm.
But one of my friend also motivated me, and we kind of pushed each other. Uh, During university, all the master students, most of them do get free courses from the university,
Wow.
or if they're not free, but they're at a very minimal fee.
Mhm.
So I remember I could take and German classes at the university for just 60 euros per
Wow.
course. That's very, very, very cheap.
Mhm.
And though for me, it goes a long way now for getting a PR or also if I want to go for a passport or something like that. But I would, if you have such a German course, I would recommend take some time and do a German course. It'll be really beneficial in the long run. Even if you think you don't have time, you will always. And it's just 2 classes per week, right?
Mhm.
So I think learning German really, really helped me in the long, long run.
Mhm.
And of course, I don't speak really well now, but I
Mhm.
can speak, I can understand, I can really understand people what
Mhm.
they're saying.
Mhm.
And it also helped me towards my internships later during my master's and
Mhm.
all of that. I think German is a major challenge,
Mhm.
and a lot of people don't make the effort, but I
Mhm.
think it's very important. Also for you to network
Yeah.
with
And, coming back to your challenges, you were like staying in Gurgaon, which is pretty crowded, and you came to Vienna, which is not the biggest cities, right? Like it's quite empty out there. The supermarkets are
yeah,
closed on Sunday. So tell us some
yeah.
interesting stories and other challenges apart from the language that you face.
Actually, I think the major challenge in Vienna at that point was racism. So, because it's also East Germany, right?
Oh, okay.
So,
Mhm.
so it's also East Germany. So the major challenge was that. But again,
Oh, did you face racism at some
I,
point?
I think in very subtle sense, but
Mhm.
also here I would come back to the language again because if you don't understand German, you cannot reply, right? I knew they were saying something, but you say ignorance is bliss, so you can just ignore it because I did not know what they exactly said. But I knew there was, for instance, someone pulled my hair in the train seat or something. So it was, for me, it was still okay. I've heard people who faced worse. So then I look at
Wow,
my,
that's
yeah,
I mean that's not racism, that's misbehavior. I mean, you can always complain about that, if like
yeah, yeah. But you see, I
yeah.
was new and I did not know, and but
Mhm.
it's okay. I did
Yeah,
not, it didn't affect me so much. It was just one incident, and when I saw it, it's all gone.
but at the same time, you will also find a lot of good people and, as you
Yes.
said, good stories and
Yes, yes. So, one of the main cultural shock for me was when I came to Germany was people saying hello.
Mhm.
I think that, and I was like, oh, why are they telling me hello? When I talk about racism, you also see this. The people are so friendly, and Vienna is also filled with a lot of old people, right? So,
Exactly.
and everyone I go to the train and say hello, I'm like, oh, I felt so valued as a person. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's the
wow.
normal culture here. Like if you know, if
Yeah,
you kind of meet somebody, even stranger, then you have the culture of saying hello and greeting,
exactly, exactly. And especially if you know German, now that I know German, people come talk to you. So it's very nice. I now, before I did not like the concept that everything is closed on Sundays, but now I really cherish it
Yeah,
because you get time for yourself, right?
yeah,
But yeah, there are times when I go to India and I miss it because everything is really, really closed on Sundays. But
exactly. And I remember my days because by it's 8 and then every supermarket is closed. And as an Indian guy or as an Indian student, you are very used to late nights, right? Like
yes,
outings
yes,
and stuff like that.
exactly.
And that is totally not here, right? So
Yes, yes.
any
So
other
it's
incidences, Ritika, that you remember from those days?
well, I think I was a nerd. I did not go out much. At least, we went out with friends quite often, like, just like bowling, but not much. I enjoyed hiking because there were small hills, but
Mhm.
not so, I mean, we didn't go so much. I enjoyed snow because that time when I first came, it was such a beautiful snow that year. So I really enjoyed that. And I think it was just new. And the main thing for me, I came, like you mentioned, I came from Gurgaon, Delhi. For me, I loved coming to Germany and I still love it. Why? Because the sense of freedom.
Mhm.
In Delhi, as a girl, it was not I was not allowed, but you had,
It's not
you
that
had,
safe. You don't feel that safe.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I was always, it felt like you're always washed around, right? But here, when I came, I felt free. I could think on my own. I could make decisions on my own. I literally, I felt like I became the person I am after coming to Germany. Like, you get out from your parents, parents' home, and then you come. So I think the sense of freedom. It's especially for girls who are like stuck. Sometimes I feel I was stuck. Like I wanted to get out of Delhi at least.
Wow.
So for me, Germany was life changing. I mean, it still is. I really value it over here.
Amazing. And you were predetermined about going for PhD, right? So after you finished your, say, master's, how was the application process
Hmm.
for a PhD like?
Okay, so during my master's, I was predetermined in bachelor's for doing a PhD. During a master's, it took a bit of a turn because I did not have a really great experience during my master thesis. But fortunately, now when I look back to it, that showed me what I actually need. What should be what you need during a PhD and what you don't need. So I was when I did my master thesis, my boss really liked me. He wanted to keep me, but the lab took some negative turns. So then I realized I don't want to stay here, and I was very doubtful. Okay, no, maybe I don't even want to do a PhD. So I was on borders. What do
Mhm.
I want to do? So I took an internship that time. So I would say a paid internship, and I started working at the clinicum, the hospital of Vienna, and my boss there was amazing. He was the one then. I mean, all the confidence that I had lost, he was the one that who resurrected it.
So
He
you
told
kind of
me,
you already, I mean, this is interesting. Like you were predetermined, but after you tasted the, what do you say, the
research,
lab environment
academia.
and stuff, you were confused about, you were two ways about going for PhD. And
Yes,
then your mentor, so to say, kind of
yes,
resurrected you. That's
yes,
an
yes.
interesting thing. Yes.
So, yeah, as I was saying, so I was two ways after my master's, like my master thesis. During my master thesis, basically, what should I do? Like, because I did not have such a great experience. And then when I got into an internship, after my master thesis, I took up an internship and he kind of, resurrected me. Okay, you should like do a PhD. And he saw in me what I had lost during my thesis, what I couldn't, I lost that self-confidence. So he saw in me, no, 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 you can do it. And he was the one who motivated me. And, but you see here, I did not even have an industry experience. So I did not know what it would be like in industry or I had an academic experience for 1.5 years in a lab. So I knew how it would be, how my PhD would go. And that's why I was doubtful. And because that also my master thesis, the last ones were a negative experience.
Mhm. So, Ritika,
Um,
I mean, this is very important thing, because if I may ask, because, I think a lot of people will learn this, and I think I can quite correlate to this experience that, you did not feel good about research because of what factors? Because you
um,
enjoy lab,
actually,
or was it the
uh,
mentor, or was it because you were seeing repeated failures? What was that
it
demotivated you?
was not the subject. I actually also liked my mentor initially. So he was a very, very smart man, very intelligent. But some scientists, they know how to work, but they do not know how to be a professor, right? So I think that's where what the difference was. Uh, they know how to do their science, but they do not know how to
Coach you.
mentor.
Mhm.
Exactly. And I think that's where, so I really like this because I was working on epigenetics. It was a hot topic and it still is a hot topic. And I was working on CRISPR-Cas9. So it's still the hot topic, you see. So, and I really want to do my PhD over then. I was doing really well. He really liked me and everything. But I think the atmosphere in the lab. So that's when I realized it's the topic. It's okay. It's okay. The atmosphere is the most important thing. You have to spend your 3, 4 years there, or maybe even
Absolutely.
5. And where you're working, the surrounding, it's not only for academia, but also for your industry. If you don't like your office, you cannot go to it, right? So where
Absolutely.
you're working is very important. And that's when I realized, that's when I made a list of what I want when I look for a PhD. Fortunately, when I started looking for my PhD in Germany, you do see a lot of positions. You do see, of course, I applied to industry also to see how it goes. I
Mhm.
also applied to PhD. Of course, I wouldn't get replies. I did not have an industry experience. But I applied to PhD. So my mentor at that time during my internship really motivated me because he saw that I could do research well and I would ask questions that were the right questions a PhD student would ask. So it really motivated me, and I got a lot of replies. I applied all over Germany, and I got a lot of replies. But I kind of knew where I wanted to go in Germany to pursue my PhD degree. So, and what topic I wanted to stay connected to epigenetics, but I wanted to lean a bit towards data science also. So I think apart from the topic, the top most what I needed was a good PhD supervisor,
Mhm.
a most kind and good PhD. That's the
And that
most
is such an
important thing.
important thing that I cannot emphasize less. People always go for topics, but then, as you said, PhD is not just about, doing the research, but it's doing the research in the right environment, because you will need a lot of mentorship. And there, I
Exactly,
think you should give a lot of weightage to, to your mentor, to the supervisor under whom you will do your PhD. So that's a
exactly,
good, yeah.
exactly. So I mean, it also depends if you want to do a postdoc or like an industry you want to go. Of course, I did not decide during when I was applying that if I wanted to go to industry, I want to do a postdoc. I
Mhm.
was just going open-ended, whatever it would take me. But of course, my second on my list was a topic. And then it with the first was my mentor, and the third was of course lab mates.
Mhm.
So I have of course applied to PhD positions that were I know I could work on them.
Mhm.
But when I went for interviews, I really looked at how my professor was going to be. If he was interviewing me, I was also getting a chance to know him, right? So because
Absolutely. Mhm.
so I mean, I think because of my bad experience, I ended up in a good place in my PhD. And I would just give credits to my supervisor because she has been great, great, great. I really think um, during PhD, there are times when you just feel, right? And you feel like, oh, maybe I'm not, you have the imposter syndrome.
Yeah, yeah, you have your highs and lows. Yeah, that's also.
And I struggled a lot with the imposter syndrome, especially during my second year. And I
So
would
you
go to
felt
my
as if you did not deserve this position, or
No, I felt as if I'm not doing enough. I
okay.
mean, how much ever I studied, I'm still not good enough. I
Mhm.
need to do more. And I studied a lot, but I feel like I did not get there. There's still, every time I used to go to a conference, someone knew more. and I did not understand parts of it. So at that time, I did not know. It's okay.
Mhm.
And I went to my support. She gave me a calendar note where it said that it's okay to fail, try again. So,
Yeah.
and I stuck that on my PhD, the place of where I work. So, and I looked at it, and it was she who gave it to me, and I've had a nice time because of her, and just because of mentor. And I saw how the tables turned right during the master thesis. I did not enjoy so much because of the mentor, but during the PhD, it was just totally opposite.
Wow. I mean, I think you gave some very precious advice while you were discussing your journey. Perhaps a little bit emphasis on how is the application process for PhD in Germany, if for the
Yes, yes, yes.
if you can
So
highlight.
I think the easiest way to go, at least for me, I would say the easiest way to target was if you do a master's in Germany and then apply for PhD. It's of course a much easier path. Someone applying from India, I also know that because I've had friends, is of course to DART scholarship. So
Mhm.
DART gives you funding for 3 years and you get a scholarship and then you come to Germany. But the other ways are also applying from India are of course like how we do it over here. That's how I did it, and I was
Like
like,
direct application to the supervisor or in a
exactly.
PhD program.
So
Mhm.
what I did was, I went to, of course, LinkedIn is
Mhm.
one of the job sites that you go to.
Mhm.
You have Stepstone, and then there was Indeed. These three sites, apart from university sites, but I think these three sites were the where I looked for research positions.
There's also one site that I can recommend. It's called Job Vector, especially for PhD
Yes,
positions here.
yes, yes, yes. Especially for academic positions. Yes, yes,
Exactly.
yes, sure. Yes, that's true. I think I also applied for that. But these were the three. I just typed in PhD positions, then the subject that, example, molecular life science or epigenetics, then it would filter out the results.
Mhm.
And I would apply to a lot of them, a lot. I would then create, of course, my letter of motivation. That's the one document you require, and my CV. And yeah, these are the two. And letter of recommendation. So I did I'm really thankful to my uh, supervisor during the master thesis. He really gave me a nice letter of recommendation, and also during my internship. So they gave me really nice ones, and that really helped me also then to get interview calls. I got from all over Germany. I also gave an interview for in Hamburg for a company, the one that makes creams. I'm sorry, I don't
Yeah,
remember it.
yeah, I know. Biasdorf.
Yes, Biosdoc. Yes,
The
yes, yes.
Nivea cream, right?
Yes, yes, exactly.
Mhm.
I also went ahead and gave, fortunately, in Stepstone, you also see that companies have PhD positions. And especially if you want to get into industry, it's an
Mhm.
easier way, right? So
Mhm.
I got a PhD call from them as well. I also gave an interview there. But the most I liked was in Munich, from Technical University Munich, because it dealt with epigenetics.
Mhm.
And also I wanted to work on data science. So it was more inclined towards that methylation and data science. So I just filtered out positions and I applied. So of course, then also I made an Excel, because you apply to so many positions, I made an Excel sheet of
Mhm.
the positions that you apply to. And I think within 2, 3 weeks, you start getting calls. You
Wow.
have several rounds of interviews. For one, I had, of course, one the initial round, and then there was a second round where you had to come and present
Mhm.
your research topic. So that was mostly your master thesis. So that's what I did. You present your master thesis, and then the third round was basically just getting to know, coming and getting to know the team members. So sometimes you just have 2 rounds as well. So it depends. And then of course they let you know. So I think I was also stuck between two, but yeah,
Mhm.
it just worked out. That's the
Wow.
most common way of applying.
Yes, yes. Amazing. Now before I go to your post PhD transition story, perhaps a little piece of advice that you'd like to give to students who are considering Germany as a destination for, higher education. What would be your advice?
Especially, I mean, at least if I talk about biology. So I think if you're looking towards it is very good research. If you talk about research, Germany is very, very good at research. It's of course recommended. If you can, I mean, especially if you're trying to apply for PhDs from India, instead of looking at Indian sites, try to go to the German sites, like for example, you go to stepstone.in, instead type, maybe using type stepstone.de.
Mhm.
Okay, so that would be, and you can filter out that, and you can of course translate into German and
Yeah.
from German to English. And a lot of here also give you funding. The positions are all funded over here. That means while doing a PhD, you are paid a very good salary,
Mhm.
60% or 70%, or mostly it's 50%.
Yeah, but
So
that's like, I mean, again, people from India might confuse. That's not to say that you are paid partially, but that's like, compared to the postdoc, you are paid 60%
partially,
or,
yes,
yeah,
yes, yes,
so
yes,
that
yes,
trivial tariff that you are paid. But yeah, but your PhD is completely paid and you don't have to pay a penny out of your pocket for your PhD,
yes,
unlike UK
exactly.
or other countries. Yeah.
Yes, in India also several institutions you have to pay for a PhD, and I don't think so. It's very nice. I mean, you're
Mhm.
doing work, right? It's not.
Exactly.
It's not just study.
So,
So
I mean, what I hear is quite, quite positive about, higher education in Germany. So you can highly
yes,
recommend
yes. I mean, a lot of people worry about again language over here, but in PhD, it's very international. You
that.
don't you especially speak English. It's a very
Mhm.
international community. And then I think if you want to do a postdoc, it's always available, or it's you can then do your research further. You can dig in deeper what you really want to do. Yeah, but also research. I would just like to highlight the fact that the quality of research. That's the main. I mean, I used to go to TOOM conferences and the seminars. The current topics that they have, the amount, the the things that they're doing still amaze me. So it's really vast. It's really vast. So yeah, you
Amazing.
can do anything you want. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'll go to, more interesting part about, you transitioning to the industry. So
Yeah, that
after
was
you kind of,
interesting.
you reached your, your destination of, achieving your PhD. First of all, why did you decide to move to industry? And then second question is, how did you transition? That's
Okay,
a very,
yeah.
very interesting question for our audience.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, I think the transition was not easy. First of all, deciding. So I think it was, I was trying to, I have been a bit proactive during my PhD. So, while doing my PhD, I was looking, okay, what would I do after my PhD? I always think in my mind, okay, what if the lab I'm working in doesn't give me a funding or doesn't have okay, even if it does, but I don't want to take things for granted, right? What if there is no plan B? I should have a plan A for myself, you know? And that did happen. Of course, they did not have funding, but what would my next? So I did not know if I wanted to do a postdoc, or initially I did want to do a postdoc, and I really, really liked the PhD subject that I worked on. Okay. And I wanted to continue that, but unfortunately, my professor also did not have funding when I left last year, and she really wanted. So she's still like telling me if I want to come back, I can if we have funding. But the main issue with academia is if you get funding or not. And sometimes it comes late and your current funding is already over, right?
Mhm. So
So
was it because of funding that you transitioned, but because, or was it also because you wanted to transition?
no, no, that's what during my second year I did retrospect a lot what I really want to do, and I think so that's where a lot of these German institutions or anywhere, if you look at TUM, if you look, I was in Helmholtz Zentrum Institute, so they have these career not only pages, career, what do you say?
Seminars.
Exactly, exactly. They have a group that they organize. So Helmholtz has a very strong career group. They organize career committee. So they constantly give. So I listen to both the people who do postdoc and the people who do industry. And I know my skills, right? I know that I'm a people's person. I can talk to people, and I listed that down on what I really want to do. And they make you in these career seminars, take those tests and where you really want to go. So of course, it came from me as an industry. But I also really like research. I mean, I like studying in the sense per se, like learning about new things. But I think somewhere down the line, I like the fact that to go. I also got tired, of course, of the constant funding, and also that um, papers. You have to publish a lot of papers, of course. That's also a constant struggle
Mhm.
during a PhD, not only during a PhD, then in a postdoc as well. And in a postdoc, I know that the funding is again limited for 2 years, right? You again have to look for it, or again have to work towards it. So I think I was not very impressed, I would say. So, but I think then I inclined more towards, and I remember calling you because I needed a sense of direction. You remember, I think last year. So that's when I was trying to decide. I also called you, and then I was trying to decide, okay, let me talk to someone who actually works in the industry, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I
And I
called
must
you.
say, I must say that I was quite impressed with your openness and also your, the kind of communication skills you had. And I kind of told you that, people
Yeah, thank
industry
you.
will love people like you.
Thank you. So that's why I wanted to have an opinion. So someone who works in the industry. So of course, we had a lot of people in our career center coming from industry and for postdocs. I was really impressed by that. And I think one more reason I wanted to transition was I wanted to be on the front end. So I know companies, I've always wanted to be in the front. So with the industry, you can be on the front end of literally like producing drugs, or you are there, you know that all the studies you've done, this is the product that you see, and it's coming from the company that you're working for, or something like that. So that was the main reason that I really wanted to transition, and that's why industry enticed me more.
Wow. So basically what I get is that you self-analyzed your skills and then, you calculated the pros and cons of being, in academia versus industry. And then of
Yes,
course it made sense for you to, transition to industry. And that's how,
yes, yes.
you decided. But how did you go about it?
Oh, yes. So like I mentioned, it was a long process. It was not that I decided in my third year or something. Like I mentioned, that I attended a lot of career seminars organized by Helmholtz Career Center. Not only that, outside, I would go to any fairs. I stay in Munich. So I would go to any fair, industry fair that was there. I would go to them. I would talk to people. Like I would not, if not talk, I would just see what do they need in a person like me. Okay, and I would try to develop on this skill. So I knew the data science was coming, so I would try to learn more languages or something like that. So at least I listened to many people, and then um, career centers organize a lot of like CV writing workshops or letter SOP writing workshops. I attended those, and side by side I did that. And when the time came, I somehow mustered up the courage to apply for positions. So I think that was the most challenging part, to apply and then to see a rejection email,
Mhm,
because there are many.
mhm.
Uh,
Yeah. So for the audience, don't get frustrated if you have rejection letters, because that, you should be welcoming rejections, because these
yes,
are
yes,
part of your progress. So this will
yes.
happen, but yeah, you don't need to be demotivated about it.
But I feel there's a lot of content online nowadays, because you can just go to any site, okay, and they have a lot of fairs. I not only in the Helmholtz career fairs, I would just go any, like I think there was a Max Planck one where they would also have invite guests who are in the industry or in the postdoc. So and then they would give lectures. So I would listen to those and then decide. So during this whole process, they also had a LinkedIn workshop. So I did my best to enhance my LinkedIn profile, because in LinkedIn is a place, it was very important for me. It was a place where you could network with people. And then when I was sure that I wanted to, I tried to also network within my group or my extended group where I worked.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
people have already transitioned, and then
Mhm.
my mentor during my PhD, she also told me a few names who have already transitioned into the industry, and then I could contact them, get in touch on LinkedIn, and talk to them if they had positions. Because a lot of times you get positions through word of mouth, and they tell
Absolutely.
you, then someone recommends you, and and sometimes you don't know a position, and someone tells you, and then you apply, and then you get it. And that's what happened with me. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, Ritika, just to summarize what you said, I think it's important, first of all, to analyze. And then, also you attended some CV and cover letter workshops. So you kind of you prepared your CV accordingly, you customized your CV for the industry.
Yes.
You also did a LinkedIn workshop where in kind of you learned on how to kind of make the maximum use of LinkedIn. You were quite open. You were talking to people. You were reaching out to, people who have already transitioned. And then you were learning,
Yes.
also upgrading yourself, like in terms of
Yes.
skills and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes. So I
Yeah.
always kept the end goal in mind because I knew it was going to end sometime. So I needed to get on fast with it.
Amazing. And how did, if I may ask, how did Novartis happen? So coming to, yeah.
So I applied to a lot of, initially I was, applied to a lot of positions and I was in the job search phase. I was talking to many people and it just happened that once I was talking to a colleague of mine. I was coming home and we were in the train. I was talking to a colleague of mine and they said, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm like, I'm just, I'm tired of applying and, I'm getting rejection. I had a lot of interviews, but I was getting rejection and, I'm applying, but I'm on it. So he's like, "Oh, I know someone who has this position. I can ask her if you're interested." And I was like, "Okay, first send me the position. I can see it." So, and then I found the position quite interesting. And then he's like, "Oh, I can talk to them if it's open still. I can ask, and if you can apply, if they recommend you." So that happened, and she said yes, and they were looking for a person quite for a long time and she did reference it to me, but then I had to go through several rounds of interviews before actually ending up at the position. So yeah, that's how it happened. It was through word of mouth. You see, networking. So
Amazing. Yeah.
it's
So I mean, that
important.
is so important for, our listeners or people who want to transition, reach out to people, talk to people and network,
Yes,
and to network, in Germany, they call it vitamin B. I don't know
yeah,
whether
yeah.
you know about this
I don't know.
phenomena.
Yes.
Yeah. So they call it vitamin B. And it is
Okay,
so important, especially in the,
okay,
if you want to
okay.
kind of transition. And
Mm-hmm.
to our listeners, perhaps you can tell us, um, what does your work entail as a validation expert, and how does it
Yes, yes,
impact the scientific community and the broader
yeah, yeah.
public? Yeah.
So I'll just keep it short, maybe a little.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
like for me as a validation expert, the work it primarily entails like that all the products and the processes within the company that they meet the required standards and quality standards and the safety standards that are established by regulatory agencies such as FDA or one for Germany or the
mhm.
European regulatory agencies. Okay
Wow.
and
Mhm,
which also then involves like designing or executing validation protocols, testing the products and the processes, and then analyzing the results to see if they meet the acceptance criteria, basically. And this, of course, it's this impact of work as a validation expert is very significant, and especially
absolutely.
like
Mhm,
in pharmaceutical industry. So, you can ensure that the products and the processes that they meet the required standards of quality and safety. Uh, it's basically patient safety, right? They play a critical role in ensuring that patients receive the safe and effective medicines. And also you help in building trust in pharmaceutical industry and in promoting public health per se or something.
amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, so that's how.
And so coming next, so what are some of the key skills and qualities that are like required to be a validation expert, and how can a biology student, develop the skills?
Okay, so I think most of it is what I again I would like say I also got this position because during PhD you
Mhm.
are taught. You're not taught per se, but you gain the skills like so. The first skill let me talk to is of course communication skills. So as a validation expert, I work with closely with cross-functional teams like scientists, regulatory people, engineers, other process people, production people. So of course, very effective communication skills are required there. And same, if I compare to PhD, you do collaborate with different teams, with different groups, and you develop communication skills. Okay, so if I gained all the skills during my PhD, and I'm trying to incorporate it here now. And then, of course, you need to pay attention to detail as a validation expert. So, you have to be meticulous and then very detail oriented
Which
for to
again
make
is a part of the PhD training, right? Like
Yes,
very,
yes, yes.
yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And to ensure if that all the products that they meet the required regulatory requirements. And of course, analytical skills that you gain during PhD, okay, you need to have, as a PhD student, you always look at the data, you analyze results and stuff. Critical thinking. I mean, these are the basic, you learn that in your PhD. You can, of course, use it then during industry. That's why PhDs are the most important skill set that the industry people also want.
Amazing. I mean, I'm glad that you said that because many PhDs feel that, okay, sometimes they have difficulty understanding their own skill sets. But as a PhD, you do not just learn science, but you also have so many transferable skills for
Exactly.
the exact things that you mention, in your
Exactly.
job. Yeah.
And also I did not know it as a PhD student when I attended these seminars, and I was literally like, they told me the importance of us as PhD students. You have so many skill sets and you have to just show it off.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Yeah.
But this I think also answers the second part as a student. If you're a master student or a PhD student, you can develop it. Of course, communication is easy. You can work with teams. You can develop your communication skills, critical thinking, look at papers, read it, analyze it, and of course, analytical skill sets. You always learn during. I mean, PhDs always learn it when they analyze data, see the results, write papers, write their results, and discuss it.
Mhm.
So, and if you think you lack in something, there are always courses on LinkedIn or Coursera or something, and you can always take those courses.
Upgrade yourself. Absolutely.
Exactly, exactly. I think it's become easier now
Mhm.
than what
Mhm.
it was before.
And that
Yeah.
brings me to the next question, which is, as a newbie in industry, what are the challenges that you currently face, and how do you overcome them?
Okay. I think initially it was again language, but of course I'm still working on it, and I really want to be C1 professional. So, but I think it'll take a while. But I think the more I'm speaking, the better it's getting. In PhD, I did not use it as much as I used it in my masters,
Mhm.
and now during the industry. But because it's a key to networking with also the local people over there.
Mhm.
And the more you talk, the better you get to know people, and the better you can communicate with teams. So I think that was important. I think communication. And I did not initially know that how to utilize my PhD skill set. So it unfolded bit by bit.
Mhm.
And also that, um, I mean, of course, as this role, I think it's a perfect role for me to, after transitioning from industry to so from academia to industry, because I get to know different processes
Mhm.
of how things work in in the research department, in a company, in the process, and in the regulatory. So I get to know all those aspects as well. So, but I think the major challenge was, of course, networking, how to talk with people, how to deal with people,
Mhm.
and yeah, and how to work, in a more open environment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Amazing. And you are among one of the successful women in STEM, and you know that as a woman you have to face additional challenges. So what would be your advice for other women in STEM?
Oh, okay. Okay, so that question was a bit surprising for me because when I started out, I did not know there was a challenge.
Mhm.
So I recently heard of it. So you see, right? If you're not told that there's a challenge, you don't know. You think it's fine. But so I did not know that there was a challenge. But of course, then I think over the past year, I understood quite of it. That oh yes, it is really because I think I was in my own world of applying and just doing what I want. But what I would say, the first thing is to believe in yourself. I think there are gender biases, of course, and I would always stand with ignorance as a bliss. If you think it's getting over, you can always tell, you can always take a stand. But if you think that, some people always want to say what they say, but I prefer ignoring it. If I think it's against my values, I do stand up and say for myself. I do stand up and say, but I think it's always to have confidence in your abilities and to believe in yourself. And I think the second thing I would think is network. Of course, networking is everywhere. Go out LinkedIn, reach to. I also follow a lot of female role models. I know, like I want to be like, or who inspire me. So I think network or follow them because you see them and you get, oh my God, they're doing it. Why can't I do it? Right? And then uh, maybe seek on mentors. I mean, during my PhD, I have a mentor, my supervisor. So I really look up to her even now, not only as my PhD supervisor, but a person, a strong woman in per se. So I think to have a mentor is very important. A good person, I think. Yeah, that's
Amazing.
what I feel. So yeah.
Now more on the software part. I think we had a great discussion, Perhaps you can also tell us about your hobbies. What are your
Okay.
hobbies?
Oh, my hobbies. Okay, so I like to learn also side by side. I think right now with the PhD just a bit stagnant. I like to read a lot. I like to write. I like to write poems and articles. I have a blog. I have not been maintaining it for the past 2-3 months because of my current transition, but I really like to read and then maybe write on basis. And I have been writing poems since very long.
Yes. And I
And
must confess to the audience that, this is how I got to know you because,
yeah, that's
I think
true.
I read one of your poems and then, this is how I got
Yeah,
connected.
yeah, that's true.
Yes.
That's true. That's true. I remember when we had a first conversation, you told me that you read one of the poems.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, that's what I like to do in general. Just like read or write. Those are my, I'm trying to explore more options like going hiking or something like that, but they're just exploring now.
Especially
Yeah.
that, now you are in Austria surrounded by
Yes,
mountains. I think, yeah, it's good.
exactly. That's why I'm exploring it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So, perhaps it would be good to end this podcast with with you reciting a poem of your choice.
Okay, okay. So is it okay if it's a short one? Because I
Yes,
don't want to,
sure. Sure,
and
sure.
I mean, I've never recited in front of like anyone, but
Just,
you can
yeah.
always go to my blog and see it, but I still have to first. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
just share a very short one
Mhm.
with, I read it, I think last year, end of last year. Okay, so I'm not very good, so
Just relax. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So okay, let me just recite. Okay, so there is one that I'm reciting it off the blog. So it would be like, will you share your story if I share mine? Will you break your boundaries if I slightly just stare down mine? Will you listen and not say a word of lies? Will you please just let me be me without telling me who I can be? And will you be true to my face and my back? For I promise I'll always be a bride. Yeah, it's a very short
Wow.
one.
That was
Thank you.
amazing. That was amazing, Ritika. So
Thank you.
thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you, Ritika, for sharing your insights with us today. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you
Um,
so much.
And to the audience, thank you for tuning to Biology Career Insights. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to get the latest episodes delivered straight to your device. See you next time. Bye bye. Bye, Ritika.
Bye.
Bye.